Hello and welcome to the Positive Behaviour webinar. I am currently recording so that we can post this to the parent workshop and webinar Wakelet and share it with the community afterwards. So I'm going to share my screen so that you can see the presentation, and at the end, I'm going to allow microphones for everyone in case you wanted to ask any questions. And where am I? Screen. Okay, so I need to hit this one. Okay, so I may have to exit if anyone else enters the meeting. They might need a hand getting into the meeting. So, okay, so this is a workshop about positive behaviours, and the aims are really to introduce you to how we approach managing behaviour in school. We take a restorative approach, which is based in research and is used in different settings, including the justice system and in schools. So just to give you some idea of the kind of underpinning values behind restorative justice, how it works, and how we've taken that approach and incorporated it into our own procedures and policies and things for behaviour at Britannica. And also I'll talk a bit about what kind of things that you can do at home that will complement what we're doing at school, because the more consistent we are, the more powerful the message becomes for the children. So it's always helpful if we have a similar approach. So our underpinning values really is that all behaviour is communication. So in a school where we have children as young as 5 and children whose second language is English, then they're at varying points along their language learning journey. They can't always articulate or explain how they are feeling. They cannot explain what they need. Maybe they don't even know what they need or what they're feeling. But their behaviour gives us, as the adults around them, some clues about what they need and what they're feeling. And it's our job as like detectives to try and find out why the children are behaving in the way they're behaving. So if they're angry, if they're sulky, or if they're upset, if they're rude, they're all of these things are the behaviours that we can see at the surface, but there's always something else going on below, and the reasons behind these behaviours can be really varied, and they're very sad. It can be that they're frightened or worried about something. They're confused, they're feeling that they have low self-esteem, they don't feel quite safe, they have they're feeling unloved in some way, and these feelings, which the children might not understand or might not be able to explain, these feelings are shown as aggression or being withdrawn or quiet or distant. So it's our job as adults around the children to try and figure out what really is going on. And let's not moving on. The underpinning attitude that we have towards behaviour will affect how we manage that behaviour. So if you think of a child who is behaving badly, shouting, crying, hitting out, if you think of them as behaving badly, it kind of predisposes you to think of punishment as their answer. They're choosing to behave in that way, and therefore they need to be punished for it. But if you think of a child who is acting out as struggling to handle something that's really difficult for them, they can't manage it alone, it encourages you to think more in terms of helping them through their distress. and more of a partnership approach. And we're kind of thinking it as the latter at Britannica, because we love mistakes. Mistakes are an opportunity for our children to learn, just as we want the children to try out new words in their writing and experiment, and sometimes they don't quite fit the sentence, they don't quite get it right, but we love the fact that the children are trying and that they are making mistakes and learning from them. But it's the same for friendships and behaviors. We don't always get it right, and making a mistake and reflecting on it is a real learning point. It's a real learning opportunity. So when the children make a mistake, say if they're playing football and they're getting into arguments with friends, we do not take away the children's opportunities to make mistakes. We don't prevent them from, say, playing football because they're making mistakes while they're playing football. We help them reflect and then give them an opportunity to do better or to make more mistakes and learn from them too. Moving on, it moved on earlier before I wanted it to. So when we support children, as in any area, such as reading, math, but also behaviour, we understand that children don't all start at the same standpoint. Some children may need more help than others to have the same chance at success. And so we will give children the support that they need. So we believe in creating a safe and nurturing environment for our children so that they do feel safe to make mistakes, and that they do have an opportunity to be open and reflective about them, and learn from them. So nurture and that safety and care is really important for a child's well-being. It's really important for their self-esteem. It's really important for their development. It's also we also understand that language is a really vital means of communication. And our children, if they're very young or if they're learning English, may not have the language they need to really fully express themselves or even name their feelings. So we actually give our children vocabulary to describe their emotions, and we give the children sentence stems to help them explain that the sentence stem is the beginning of a sentence. I feel happy when, I don't like it when, and so we give them the beginning of the sentence for them to complete, and it helps them to express their needs, their wants, their feelings as well. I've talked a bit about this already, that all behaviour is communication. So we are on the lookout for what the reasons might be for a child's behaviour and why they're acting in that way. Because if we only really manage the behaviour without looking at the cause of the behaviour, the behaviour is really not going to change. It's important to get down to the root cause. I'm just going to admit somebody else. There we go. Perfect. We also recognise that transitions are really significant events in the lives of children. So these are these periods of big change are definitely very shaky times. This could be moving school, could be moving class, could be moving house, it could be the birth of a younger sibling. It's especially for our expat families, if you think about moving country, moving house, moving school, all at the same time, these are really shaky times for children. So it's definitely important that we have that kind of nurturing environment, that care, and we're looking out for them as well. We understand children's learning developmentally, so we know what kind of things that we can support them with and what different support they need at the different ages. And the classroom really is a very safe space for children to make mistakes and not beat themselves up about them, because we all make mistakes. It's a chance to learn and to admit, I did it, I've made a mistake, and here's what I'm going to do to fix it. Yeah. So restorative justice is basically a process that it's kind of started in the justice system, really. It's a process that involves everyone who has a stake in whatever offence has taken place, and so that everyone who has been harmed can be heard, and the person who has committed the harm has a chance to put things right as much as possible. Now, restorative justice in the justice system will involve victims, offenders, and community. Just for a bit of background, for me, I come from a town in the southwest of England, and they had restorative justice as a trial back in the day, about 20 years ago, as a trial for the youth offending team. So if any children who had committed a crime were, rather than being given a criminal record or being sent to a juvenile facility, they would go through restorative justice, where they would meet with anyone who their crime had harmed, and then they would have a chance to put it right, listen to everyone that's been hurt, including members of their own family. We're talking about how upset they were by the offence, and then they'd have a chance to put it right. Now, my mum was part of the youth offending panel, so she was one of the people who were involved in this trial. And when I began teaching, I also went on various courses for restorative justice to implement it in the school that I was working at many years ago in Swindon. So I love restorative justice because the primary focus is just putting things right, fixing things, making it better, and it involves everybody. So it involves the person who's been hurt, the people who saw it, the families, the mums, the dads. It involves everybody who has been hurt by whatever has happened, and they will have a chance for their voice to be heard. And then the person who has committed the crime, the act, has the chance to realize the full impact. It's not just the one person it was aimed at or the one thing that they weren't thinking about. Lots of people are negatively affected by our actions, and then it's a case of being able to try and put things right. So it's really inclusive. It includes everybody working together, everyone expressing their feelings and talking about their perspectives, and it really helps to build empathy, because often children don't and adults don't intend to hurt anyone. They just haven't necessarily considered that their actions might hurt someone, or they hadn't considered how much or how many people their actions would hurt. So this really develops that empathy and that deeper thought about the effects of our behaviour and what harm it has done. It's underpinning the values are there is respect for everyone involved, and everyone has equal value, but we're also all very connected together. And the thing I love about restorative justice is it's not focused on punishing a behaviour. It's focused on really empowering the people who have been harmed, the people who have done the harm, to solve the problem and to suggest solutions and to work together to make things right. It's also really grounded in the value of accountability. So for restorative justice to work, the person who has caused the harm must take full responsibility for their actions. There may have been mitigating factors, there may have been reasons why they did what they did, but at its heart, you have to say, I did it, and I'm sorry. And that's when the healing can start after that. So at the very heart, admit what you've done wrong, and also understand the harm from different viewpoints. So you listen to all the stakeholders, all of the people that were harmed in some way, directly or indirectly, by the actions. I think it's recognizing that there are always choices. There are good choices and bad choices, but there are always choices. And next time, perhaps a different choice that is less harmful could be made. It's also looking at steps you can take to make amends. What could be done to make things better? And what are you going to do differently next time? What actions are you going to do to make a change? So traditionally, school discipline is not based on those principles. Traditionally, it's based on reward and punishment. So when children make mistakes and they may make poor behaviour choices, it's not traditionally used as a teaching point. It's just, if you do wrong, you're punished. If you do right, you are rewarded. It doesn't really help the school culture, because people then tend to see kids as good kids or bad kids, kids who behave or kids who don't behave. And punishing kind of doesn't have a lasting effect on behaviour. It doesn't really change hearts and minds and values and long-term behaviours. And the victims get very little from the process. So really the victim, the person who's been harmed, is not really involved at all. They're not listened to or heard or much thought about. The behaviour is punished, and that's that. Whereas restorative school discipline is a little different. So it's actually building a community of mutual respect. It's seeing that behaviour is a bad choice, but the person behind the behaviour is not a bad person. They've just made a bad choice. And it's used as a primary strategy, although sometimes for more extreme behaviours you do need to revert more to something a little more punitive. But the default will always be restorative justice. The really important thing is that the victim is involved. They can share how they were hurt. It gives a context. We can think about how behaviours affect others, which is a wider kind of development of empathy. And although restorative justice takes longer to administer at the time, so to actually dig deep and have a conversation with many different people to actually get to the root cause of the behaviour, make sure everyone's being honest, everyone's stories match, and really adequately reflect and fix the harm. It takes time, much more time than just saying detention or whatever. However, long term, it's an investment of time, because long-term restorative justice and restorative approaches change how the children behave long-term. So you have fewer behaviour incidents the more times you take this restorative approach. And I think the restorative approach, because it's based on mutual respect and honesty and empathy, it's relationship building, whereas punishments can be kind of the opposite and can actually build resentment and mistrust. Whereas restorative practices and the true listening and understanding and empathy, and the fact we're in it together, we're going to fix this together, it builds relationships, and it's relationships that actually change children, the way they think, the way they feel, the way they behave, how willing they are to really delve deep into their own emotions. This comes from relationships and those deeper conversations. And young people and children, they really thrive when adults around them, they know, really care about them. They take the time to listen to them one-to-one, and they feel that they are listened to and they're heard, and they're part of a community that care about them and that are going to work together with them to build a community. So they definitely thrive in that kind of environment. I think these are some underpinning research as well. It is key, I think. Punishment does not work, not long term. and not when you're not looking, and it doesn't help with honesty either. And actually, we're just removing a child is actually, it's a bit strong to say it's a form of violence, but it is unhelpful and hurtful. And the more you know and understand about someone, the less likely you are to hurt them. So the more you understand how someone else is thinking, how they're feeling, their motivations from these kind of restorative conversations, the less likely you are to hurt them in the future. So this is why a restorative approach is so helpful. Good relationships are the heart of everything. The children learn best when they have a good relationship with the teachers, and they really care about the feedback that they are given, and it's where effective learning of reading, writing, math happens, but it's also where effective learning for behaviour happens too. So a whole school restorative approach can actually increase our emotional literacy. We have a better understanding of our own feelings, of other people's feelings, of the connection between feelings and behaviour, and feelings and actions, and feelings and words. It helps us to address any bullying behaviours, for example, because if we ask children to more deeply think of the impact that their behaviour is having on the victim, but also the bystanders, the families, everybody in their community is affected by such things, then it helps to reduce that kind of thing. Everyone likes to work in an environment where people care about them, about each other, and so having a restorative approach can actually retain teachers for longer. They want to stay in an environment where everyone cares about each other. It's a nice place to be. It raises everybody's morale. It raises the self-esteem of our children, particularly the children who struggle with making good choices. Then they know that they're not bad kids. They just know that they need to work on their choices. If you take a punitive approach and think of them as bad kids, then they're going to have really low self-esteem and self-worth. So it's really important that we keep everyone's self-esteem high and let them know how special they all are. And it really creates a culture of inclusion and belonging. We're all in it together, and we all have a responsibility for each other as well. It creates a happier, safer school, mutually respectful relationships, and happy children learn better. It's just a simple case. If you're miserable, if you're upset, if you're angry, then you're not going to learn as well as if you're in a calm, relaxed state. It reduces exclusion, that's exclusion of children being removed from the class or the school, and can actually raise attendance because kids just want to be here. Staff want to be here. So the restorative approach is really about reflection. So it's about thinking honestly and evaluatively about our actions and the impact and what could have been done instead. It also helps the children to think through what they should do rather than what they really want to do or they have to do. It's the kind of approach that helps when you're not looking. So when you have punishments, children will behave if they think they're going to get caught. If they think they might not get caught because no one's there and the teachers won't see or the mum and dad won't see, then they're more likely to do what they wanted to do in the first place. They just avoid the behaviour to avoid the punishment. Whereas with a restorative approach, because they're thinking much more deeply about the impact of their actions and what is right and what is wrong, then they are more likely to do the right thing on their own, without, even when there's no chance that they would get caught or very little chance that they would get caught, they still do the right thing because they know it's the right thing and they want to do the right thing and they know the impact of doing the right thing versus doing the wrong thing. And it helps to develop empathy for everyone. Empathy is so important. Later on, then a lack of empathy leads to all kinds of different crimes in the community. within relationships, a lack of empathy in relationships can cause a breakdown of relationships as well. A lack of empathy can reduce your school performance because of your you just won't be very happy. You won't understand why people don't want to be around you. But being able to maintain good relationships with others and having high empathy is actually an indicator of future work success as well. So empathy is key for happiness, but both at home, with friends, at school, at work, and performance. So the 5 magic questions that we ask our children is what happened, and we like to keep our questions really open. We don't want to make too many assumptions. We don't want to make any assumptions. We want the children to tell us what happened. We ask them, what were you thinking at the time? We're trying to help the children to understand their thought processes and what thoughts led to that action. And then how were you feeling? What feelings led to that action? Sometimes children haven't made the connection and they're not quite sure why they behave the way they did. But it's our job to help them make those connections. So sometimes we say, well, what happened just before, say, you hit him? What happened just before you? You say you hit your friend. What were you doing just before? And what did they say? What did you say? And how did that make you feel? You were feeling this. Is that maybe why you acted the way you did? And so you kind of help them to make those connections between what is said and done beforehand, and to help them recognize those feelings and to make a different choice next time. So then you start saying, well, who's affected by this? Obviously the person that you hit, but anyone else there was affected. Well, the other children who saw it were upset and they were sad. The teacher, because they were upset and sad, they don't want the children in their class to be hurt either. And so they start to think about who else has been made sad by this, and what do you do now so that the harm can be repaired. The beauty of working with young children is often it's very, very easy to fix that harm. Usually they say sorry and children just move on, just like this. But it's important for us as well, as we say, well, sorry, yes, we can say sorry, but we also need to recognize, sorry, why are you sorry? What is it that you've done to make them sad? So you would actually structure the apology. I'm sorry, I hit you. I did it because I was angry that you wouldn't let me play. For example, this is a common one. You wouldn't let me play, so I hit you. I know it was wrong, and I didn't want to make you sad. Next time, I won't hit. I will ask for help instead. So we give them these kind of, this is what you would do next time as well. We have golden rules in our school, so our golden rules are displayed in classrooms and corridors all over the place, so the children know what is expected of them. So they know they're supposed to be moving around the school quietly, sensibly, and at a reasonable speed. And that last one, the reasonable speed, it's very, very difficult when you have irresistible ramps to run down. But for safety, we ask them to be at a reasonable speed. We ask everyone to be kind and gentle to everyone. We always say kind words, gentle hands, and these are the targets for some children as well. We ask to listen carefully and politely to everyone in our community. Some children are really good at listening to their teachers, but they're not so good at listening to their classmates. It's important that everyone is listened to and valued. So that's one of our golden rules. We take care of our school and keep it tidy. Follow instructions, always do our best, we try hard, and bring the correct equipment to each lesson. So we have some commendations in school. That is basically a way of promoting the behaviour that we want to see. We celebrate good behaviour very publicly. So we will give praise loudly in front of the class. We will give house points. Everyone automatically gets golden time, actually. They can lose them and then it back. not all of it, but most of it. But for things like being kind and helpful and good-mannered or trying hard or a good piece of work, they can be given verbal praise loudly in house points. They may do a really good piece of work. They might get stickers. They might get themselves on the what a good one looks like wall. That's a waggle, what a good one looks like. They could get a email home or mention to their parents. Something really good, they might go in the merit book, and they could be selected for Star of the Week as well. We also try to celebrate them with the Key Stage coordinators. Sometimes they come to me and show me what wonderful things that they've been doing as well, and I make a big fuss and I give them stickers and things as well, because it's really important that we promote and celebrate the behaviours that we want to see. And anything that's super good can end up on my wall of fame, which is going to get a makeover very soon by our year 10 student who is a brilliant artist. That will be just outside my office, and everyone walks past and everyone can see the amazing achievement or work that the children have done. If a child has made a mistake in their behaviour, then there are consequences, but consequences are not punishments. Punishments are about making children suffer for their mistakes. We are not in the mind frame for making children suffer. We want children to do better in the future. So consequences are designed to help children reflect and encourage better behaviour in the future. Children also have the right, and lots of children have a very strong sense of justice and fairness, and so it's important that we are fair and we consistently apply our consequences. And as a staff, we understand that we have a responsibility to follow up with poor behaviour choices and investigate properly, to understand what caused them and to address any poor behaviour choices. So whilst the commendations are very public, the consequences are very private. So the merit book, for instance, is stored publicly in the corridor. Anyone can grab it anytime and have a look through, and they do. They come past and they have a look and see if they can find their name or their friends' names in the golden book. So it's very public, whereas consequences are not public, they're private. So any records of poor behaviour choices are kept away. No one else can look at them. Praise is shouted across the classroom, good job, whereas reminders about behaviour and when you have to talk to a child about a mistake they've made, that's whispered, that's talked to away from the others. We don't want to humiliate children with publicly talking about their bad choices. So at first, the first step really on our consequences would be a reminder of the correct behaviour. We give verbal warnings. We might have a reflection time, either during golden time or break time, where the children think about the mistake that they've made. I think ideally the reflection is done as quickly as possible after the whatever behaviour. It's not always possible to do it the same day, because it might be that the child needs time to calm down, or it might be that it happened in the afternoon and it is not possible. They have to do it the reflection the next day, but as soon as possible afterwards. We have you may have heard your children talking about they've gone up to the sun, or they sit on the sun, they've gone up to the rainbow or the pot of gold, or maybe they've gone down to the cloud or the rain cloud. So they move up and down according to their behaviour. And in year 4, 5 and 6 they have similar, that they have colours. They have gold and green, yellow, red. So it's possible that the children might be sent to a key stage coordinator, or to me to reflect if their behaviour is repeated or very serious as well. and parents are informed if the children need to complete a reflection sheet. So the reflection sheet would go home with the children as well. In years 1 and maybe 2, often this is scribed for the children, but older children will write their own reflection sheet. It is possible to be taken to the principal, and where the behavior might be repeated and it might be a very high level, then it's possible for the child to have an internal exclusion, so they need to work away from their class and have their playtime separate from the other children for a fixed period, or parent exclusion, but we've never actually got to that point. When we reflect with the children, it's really important that we ask them, what did you do? And the children are very eager to tell us what everybody else has done, and I'm sure everybody else has made mistakes too. But when we're talking to a child, we always say, I'm not interested yet what your friend said. I'll talk to them about their behavior. I'm talking to you about your behavior. What did you do? And this is the kind of core of restorative justice, really, is that children must accept responsibility for what they've done. That's the center. If you can't admit what you've done, if you can't accept the responsibility for it, then you can't learn from it. So so that is central. So first of all, children must say what they have done, and afterwards they can talk about the mitigating circumstances that cause that behavior. So they can then say what everybody else did after that. But first, at its core, what did you do? Then why? Then we can talk about how they feel, and the impact of their actions on the other people, and how do you think they're feeling now? And that's quite an interesting one as well, because sometimes children can be feeling anxious about going out on the playground again because last time the child was unkind or not gentle, and so the fixing it part really is about how to make that child who doesn't feel safe, how can we make them feel safe again? And then what would you do next time? So sometimes, often, misunderstandings happen on the playground because of a lack of empathy, and because of a lack of communication. So instead of saying how they feel and what they need and the effect of their friend's behavior, they will hit because that is what they know. That's an easy way to just communicate, stop it. What we say is, instead of using your hands to say stop it, let's use our mouth. And we say, we give them, and we practice with them a little script. So we say, stop it, I don't like it. When you say, I can't play, I feel sad, so that they can explain how they feel and what they need. And we often say as well, if this isn't working, if when you're telling people what you need and how you feel, and they're still carrying on, there are always teachers around on the playground to help. So there's usually three people, two or three people out on the playground. And so there are teachers around to help. So I think we also have the teachers have all of these restorative questions to help children arrive at that reflection. Children don't get there on their own. It's important to ask the right questions. So all the teachers have had training. Mr. Willoughby has been really good with helping with this direct training and providing teachers with tools for kind of getting to the root of the problem. So these questions actually many teachers have them on their ID badges, so they actually have them to hand straight away, and it helps to remind all of us what kind of things we could be asking our children. So what happened? What were you thinking at the time? who is being affected by your behaviour? What impact has this incident have on you, on others, and what do you need to do to make things right? It's instead of saying things, instead of saying I think you should apologise, it has more power and more meaning if the child says, I think I need to apologise. I think that will be the right thing to do. And they mean it more because it's their suggestion and they know it's the right thing to do rather than just being told you need to apologise. So getting them to really think instead of giving them the answers. As teachers, we do this all the time. We ask questions because we want the children to think. We do this in reading. We don't just tell them the text analysis, for example. We ask them questions that help the children get there on their own. We do the same with behaviour. We get them to think through their behaviour and what they've done rather than just giving them what we think are the answers. Sometimes our children need some extra help. Sometimes they're reflecting on their behaviour and they're really and they're struggling to make the right choices. They're struggling with big emotions. Maybe there's mitigating factors and they might just need a bit of extra help. Remember at the beginning I said some people naturally find it easier to interact with others than other children, and some children need a bit of extra support. So we have individual behaviour plans, which is where the children have some set targets where that they for their behaviour, such as using gentle hands, using kind words. They might have a behaviour chart where we track the behaviour. They have smileys or stickers or something that would go home as well, so that parents can see the behaviours, but also help us to track, are the children making poor choices at lunchtime or just after lunchtime or before lunchtime or where. And it helps us to kind of see what those triggers might be and to see how we can support. It also develops that really strong partnership between home and school, which is really important, and it's so much more powerful when the children can see the parents and teachers working together and communicating. They don't really like it that much. They don't like to think of us talking and knowing, and if they've made a mistake at school, then their parents are going to know about it. But it's okay if we all have the same approach. We all know that mistakes are okay. We learn from them. Then it's fine. Sometimes the children are making mistakes because they just don't have the skills to interact positively with others yet, and they actually need extra work on skills. And just like we would have extra phonics groups for children who are finding phonic and decoding in their reading difficult, we have social skills groups where children learn things like turn taking, listening skills, conflict resolution, learning how to lose. That's a really hard one. Learning how to lose. And so they will actually have a social skills group for those things as well. Sometimes the underpinning reason for the behaviour is sadness or something that the children need to talk through, some kind of anxiety, some kind of issues with transition, and they need to talk it through. And sometimes counselling is a really good way of helping to address feelings, but also the result of the feelings, which would be behaviours as well. PSHE lessons are the personal, social, health and citizenship education lessons that the teachers will deliver for their class. Often we have like a set curriculum where they will learn different skills throughout their time, and they build on different topics from year 1 into year 6 and through into secondary as well. But we also reserve some of the time for, instead of being proactive and thinking about what we want them to learn, we also reserve some sessions for being reactive. We know that things will happen on the playground or in the classroom and that we actually need to address that aspect. So we might have some unkindness or teasing or whatever is happening on the playground is causing some issues. The teacher can do a lesson about it. We have a bank of lessons. We have like Miss Kitty. Mr. Milburn's a bit of a whiz at PSHE. Mr. Price is our current PSHE coordinator, and he is super helpful as well in giving advice on how teachers can address different needs. And we also have our peer mediators as well. The Year Sixes had their assembly 2 weeks ago, and they've been learning about how to resolve conflicts, how to de-escalate situations, and how to help others to understand. Actually helps them just as much, or if not probably more than it does anybody else, but it's a really good way of helping to develop empathy and that's kind of conflict resolution skills. Now, I actually have, I don't know if I can show you this because but I will send this out separately as well. It's going to be in the Wakelet, but there's some beautiful, I can't click on it. Oh yes, I can. Here we go. There's some beautiful conversations about that teachers have had with other children. So we've got one here that just it gives you a good illustration of the kind of conversations that the teachers are having with children when the children have made a mistake. So this one, there's child 1 has cut child 2's hair. They just spontaneously got some scissors and gave themselves a haircut. But what child 1 said that at the time she did it because child 2 asked her to, but she'd never had any hairdressing training. After discussion, she said that now she realised that hairdressing is strictly for professionals and only that parents need to be consulted about haircuts. She realised that it had an impact on child 2's mum, who was really upset that her daughter had received a haircut from another child, and they promised not to play with scissors in the future. And child 2 also realised that her mum was very sad by the haircut, and she should have asked and talked about it first. And we've got a whole bunch of conversations here which are really lovely, but one of them, there's one about swimming as well. I liked the one about swimming. I can't find it now, but there was this is the one. There was the teacher in this situation actually took a great deal of time to get to the bottom of what is actually happened. One child said he pulled my hair and they were having an argument, and it turns out afterwards when they were describing what happened and really delving a bit deeper, it realized that they were actually, it was an accident, and the reason that the accident happened was very clear, and they were actually pretty happy about the outcome afterwards. But these things take time. The conversations take time, but it's important to have them because yeah, in the long term, it really is very helpful for avoiding those kind of situations from coming up again in the future. So positive parenting, I think if there is a similar approach at home than there is at school, then it is much more powerful, and it's worth noting that what our children see, they will imitate. So if we shout at our children, then we can't really be too upset with them when they shout, because we're teaching them that's the way to behave. Like when you're angry or upset, you shout. It's important to be that role model and don't do things that you don't want your children to do. It's important to take the time and actually really listen to what your children are saying, their explanations, their feelings. I think sometimes with when adults listen to children talking about what caused their behavior, it seems like a really small thing. It seems like a small reason for these big feelings, but it's really important for the child. It's important to listen to them and know that this has had an impact on them. I think it's really important to praise children, even for little things, because you don't want to become too negative. So the only time you talk about behaviour is when they've made a mistake. You want to be talking about behaviour when they've done something right as well. And so just praising not just the big things, not just when they've they've had a class assembly, or they've done a piano recital, or something like this. Yes, praise those things, obviously, but what about if they've cleaned their room without, or made their bed without being asked? Or what if they were cleaning their teeth without being asked? I don't know. Little things that you want them to do, praise everything. And it's important as well to avoid making rash decisions when you're angry. I think this is where timeout is really useful, because timeout in and of itself has no impact on behavior whatsoever. However, timeout is a lovely break for everybody to calm down and then have a conversation afterwards. So sometimes saying we need 5 minutes apart and then we're going to talk about this afterwards is better than trying to talk about things immediately. Children who are upset and angry will not listen to you. They can't hear you when they have big feelings. When they're still shouting or crying, they can't hear you. It doesn't matter what you say, they can't hear you. So everyone calm down, and then you won't end up saying something like, right, no TV for a week. And you might actually think about reflecting a little bit more. And remember, actually having harsh punishments, like smacking, hitting children, it really makes them avoid being hit. So they will, if they think they're going to get caught, they will avoid the behavior. But if they think they don't, they'll see if they can get away with it. But also remember, they will be upset, they will be resentful, and you get what you give. Basically, so if you give out lots of love, you get it back. If you give out lots of screaming or yelling or hitting, you're probably going to get an angry, resentful child back. And they're not going to be truthful either, because why admit to doing something wrong if they're going to get hit for it? You know, this is why it's very low stakes here. So restorative practices at its heart, it's admitting what you've done wrong. So we always say, am I, last time you made a mistake, did I shout at you? They say no. Was I angry with you? They say no. What did we do? Well, we fixed it together. We worked together. And how did everyone feel afterwards? Well, we all felt good. We all felt better. Okay. And in that circumstance, the children are able to admit, okay, I did it. I made a mistake and I know it was wrong, because it's safe to do that. They become very honest and very reflective. That wouldn't happen if they knew they were going to get yelled at or punished harshly or hit. They're not going to admit anything. Sometimes it can be children are hard. Children are tricky, and it's hard not to be negative sometimes. And so here are just some lovely things to say instead of "stop it, you're embarrassing me" when they have a full-on tantrum in the middle of Ocean. You can empathize. I know things are really tough for you right now. Shall we go to a quieter place to sort things out? Often when a child is really struggling with something, they've got really big feelings about something that's making them lay on the floor and cry. Sometimes they just need a hug. They're really struggling, and then they will calm down enough to talk about it, reassuring them that you're going to help them. They've made a mistake, but you're going to help them, and reassuring them that actually being angry is really normal. It's a really very normal human reaction. It's okay to feel it. It's okay to express it, but how we express it is also important. So we can express it by saying, I'm angry. Sometimes it comes out loudly, and it's okay. There's nothing wrong with being angry. And just reassuring, we're going to figure this out. We're in this together. I know that things are tough right now, but we're going to figure this out together. Again, some alternatives to no. Sometimes we have to tell our children no all the time. They ask for things a lot. they behave in ways that we don't want them to behave. But rather than just saying no all the time, there are some other more positive ways to frame it. So instead of stop whining and crying, you can say, please use your words. Tell me how you feel. Tell me what's wrong. Maybe we can fix it together. Don't get upset. Well, that's not helpful. They already are upset. It's okay to feel upset. But the reason we couldn't do that is, it's just reassuring, you were upset. It's okay. Rather than saying, no, we can't play, you say, well, maybe we can play later, tomorrow, next time. This time we have to do something else. Instead of saying, don't say that, please choose another word. Instead of stop hitting, keep your hands to yourself. Use gentle hands. And I won't buy you that. Instead of that, what if we... there are some lovely, I love these. These are some really positive things to say to children, to build their self-esteem, to reassure them that even if they're making mistakes, even if they are having a breakdown in the middle of ocean, it's okay. There are, you care, you love them, you value them. Just saying things like, you make me smile, you are loved, I'm so proud of you. I'm really curious, what do you think? My world is better with you in it. You are so strong, your choices matter, you make a difference, I believe in you. These are just lovely things just to say to your child, to make them feel valued and to build self-esteem. And sometimes life gets busy and there's lots going on, but just saying some of these things is just super helpful for a child to hear, and their response, their little faces, will definitely be worth it. So to complement the school approach then, if we see when a child is struggling with something, it's that they need support. It's not that they are purposefully behaving badly to annoy you or upset you in some way. They are finding something difficult. They don't know another way or a better way yet. And mistakes are opportunities for us to learn. So it's a great way for to start these conversations and reflections, and what's a better way. How can we make it better for next time? It's really important that we admit to mistakes. If we haven't fully admitted to the mistakes, we cannot fully learn from them. In order to encourage children to tell the truth, it has to be low stakes. So if they know that a big punishment's coming, they're never gonna just admit it, or fully admit it. So just letting them know we're in this together. We are going to fix it together, but it's important we all admit what we've done wrong first. Then that's really important. Yeah, as I said, that one. It's really important to remember that you cannot start these conversations when anyone is upset. So if anyone's crying, if anyone's feeling angry, you can't really have those deep conversations. It has to be done in a calm state, and that might mean waiting. I mentioned earlier that sometimes we might wait until the following day, but certainly I would never, I always say, do you need some time? Do you want some time alone? Let me know if you want to talk, or if you just need some time. And often the children will say after a period, I'm calm now, I can talk, or I'm not calm, I can't talk yet. And recognizing that is huge. But they won't hear you. They won't be able to answer your questions properly. They won't be able to reflect properly if they are angry or upset. So give them time. Reflection is key, and helping them to recognize feelings, recognize responses, recognize reasons, triggers, and helping them to recognize better ways of approaching things or reacting to things is essential. And everyone make mistakes, but we are capable of fixing them as well. And it's important to acknowledge we've made a mistake and to then think about what we can do to fix it. Okay, that's the end of me. So I'm going to stop sharing, and I think I will allow microphones in case you would like to ask a question. So, or you can type a question into the chat if you would prefer. Right, anyone have any questions?
I think there was already a question in the chat earlier about the bus monitor and incident sheet.
Ah, yes.
Daniel asked.
I can see. So the bus driver is on the bus, and it's an incident sheet of specifically for what happens on the bus, because we know that that the children are, when they're on the bus, the driver is really focused on driving and less focused on the children's behaviour. And we also know that in the past, at least, children have seen the bus journeys as not part of school, and therefore the golden rules do not apply. So what we've done is we've displayed the golden rules in the buses, and we have the golden rules at the bus collection where they all meet in the canteen to walk out to the buses. And then we'll go over the golden rules with them at that point as well. We have had lots of conversations. There are some children who struggle with the bus, and plus it's a little long sometimes, and so they can get bored, and that's when they can also make mistakes with behaviour as well. So yeah, the bus has a separate kind of recording sheet as well.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, okay.
Maybe I have a question as well. So yeah. I really like this positive behavior and stimulating positive behavior, and I'm still trying to find my way in the world of house points and all these kind of things. And you mentioned the merit book that the children could see. I'm also interested to stimulate my daughter when she does something right. Sometimes I see a sticker on a t-shirt, and I ask her, why did you get that? Oh, you can have it if you want. And she gives it to me. So for her, it is more like something fun and nice, but she's not, how to say that, if she doesn't get it, she wouldn't be emotional or whatever. Having said that, I would like to stimulate also positive behavior. So if she does homework, she would get the house point I read on Canvas. But I would have no idea how much she contributed to the fire award, or what was it, a few weeks ago. So is there any way that we can get some insights in how to say that, how well the kids are doing, or where they never score a point, so where we can help them to contribute more? Or is that more something that we should leave to the teachers?
So the house points, the way the house points work is that they are a collective, they're not an individual. So we don't track how many house points an individual child collects. In my previous school, when I was in China, then we had individuals. But I think it's quite nice here for the it does make it very much a team collaborative effort. And so when one person gets a house point, that the rest of their house is like, yes, you did it for our house. But it does mean we don't track who is earning all the house points.
Okay.
But there are you can see stickers often, or the children will put them on themselves or in their diaries. And the merit book is just, where the swap shop is, but just outside my office. Yeah. That's where the golden book is on a store, so anyone can come in at any time and just read that. It's actually near the lost and found, between the lost and found and the swap box. There's the golden book, and it's always really a proud moment for for children to be in there, and they're in assembly as well. So these ones are read out in assembly, and the year sixes have got quite good now, who are my videographers. They've got quite good at turning around and filming the children who are in the golden book as well. So in short, we don't really track the how many house points and stickers and things the children are getting. They are told why they're getting them. So you're getting the sticker because you answer lots of questions, you were super focused, I love your handwriting, or whatever. They may not remember, but they are told at the time. I know my daughter never remembers why she got stickers, but that's fine. But I think the best way to actually find out a bit more information about how your child is behaving is just to ask the teacher directly at pick up or drop off. We have another parents' afternoon coming up in March as well, so that would be something else. If your child is having any difficulties with behaviour, you would already know. So no news is good news, but if you want news, ask.
Okay, yeah, thanks for that elaboration. Maybe on the back of that, she also mentioned sometimes I went up 3 steps, and yesterday only 1 step, so she's quite competitive with herself. But I don't even know what it is. That's also something I can ask the teacher then probably. What does it mean?
Yeah.
So it seems that they have something on the wall, and then they can go steps up. Probably also reward for a certain behavior, but that's just my guess.
Yeah, that I think she's meaning the sun. It's like a really big deal, particularly in year 1, 2, and 3. They can go if they've been doing really well, then their name gets moved up to the rainbow or the pot of gold, and that's they've done super well. So if they've gone up a couple of steps, then they'll talk about that as well.
Oh, great, thanks.
Individual teachers sometimes have individual reward systems as well. I know that some of the active lessons like music, drama, PE, sometimes they have and Hungarian as well. Actually, they also have different reward systems like Class Dojo. They have different reward systems like they have I think they have class dojo points and they get a tiny prize after however many dojo points, I don't know. And sometimes they have, if the class as a whole collects enough points, then they get a class party, which is like board games and things, which is super exciting. So individual teachers have different ways of promoting good behavior, but underpinning all of it is that kind of the restorative approach with the reflections and the celebration of good behavior.
Right, thanks.
Are there any other questions? Okay. If you did have any other questions, feel free to contact me or your child's class teacher separately. And thank you so much for coming. I'm going to save this recording onto the Wakelet, which will be shared through the Canvas pages. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you very much. Very interesting.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.